Assalamu alaikum all, welcome back to my channel. I pray that you're all in the best of health and iman. If you are new, welcome. My name is Nafisa. I am a muslimah, relationship and a trauma-informed coach. I help women to heal from their past relational traumas, and I also help women to manage different relationship issues. So if you're interested in being coached in those areas, you can find me over on my website, which I will leave linked in the description box down below. You can also find me on Patreon, where I help women with their femininity and developing their feminine character. So if you're interested in that, check out Patreon. Alright my ladies, so in today's video we are talking about signs that he may be cheating. And before I begin this video, I will have to apologize for any outside noise that you may hear. It has been an effort and a half to try to get this video done today, because every time I start there's people fixing things, mowing the lawn and all of this noise, so you will have to excuse me. But back onto our topic. What are the signs that a man may be cheating or may be about to cheat? Believe it or not, men give out signs when they are about to start something like cheating, or when they find interest in another woman. And so for us women, our intuition is usually a very good sign that tells us something is off. But aside to our intuition, in today's video I wanted to give you 5 concrete signs that he may be cheating. And so based on today's topic, my reminder again is the reminder that I've given before. The Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, says, be careful of negative assumptions about people, for that can be the falsest of all speeches. Which means we can't just go around suspecting that people are doing bad things without having the concrete evidence. Now ladies, take what I'm saying in this video very, very carefully. It doesn't mean that if he's doing all of these signs then that he's definitely cheating. This isn't a lie detector. These are just signs that something may be going on, or he may have found interest somewhere else, okay? So be very, very careful. Make sure you have your receipts. And for anyone who's like, what do you mean receipts? Evidence. Make sure you have your evidence before you actually approach somebody to, start accusing them of things. Number 1, he is less patient with you and a lot more irritated by you. And guys, you could be a brother watching this, and the same thing would go for a woman who may be cheating or may be about to cheat, or she's found love interest in somebody else. When human beings in relationships begin to find love interest somewhere else, it's often common that in their behavior they tend to be a lot less patient with their current spouses. So if you know that your spouse is someone who is generally very patient with you, yes, they may have just had enough of your bad behavior, but all of these things that I'm saying will come collectively, right? So I'm not saying spot one thing and then suddenly start accusing him of cheating. Please don't do that. Please do not. If you see all these things together, they may be signs. So if he's just a little bit more irritated by you, a little bit more upset by your presence, whatever you do is all of a sudden a problem. His attitude is that of always looking for an excuse to fight and argue with you, always looking for an excuse to be angry with you, always looking for an excuse for you guys not to live peacefully together. That may be a sign that he's found interest somewhere else. And that can be because his compassion, his attention, he's seeing whoever it is now that he's interested in as this shiny new object, this thing that is so great, and you at home are sitting there looking like the bad woman because he has all the receipts on you about all the ways that you're not great, and he doesn't know her flaws yet. So he's seeing her as, oh my god, this amazing new woman. There is excitement there and all of that. So all of his good energy is going towards that, and unfortunately you at home end up with the negative energy of everything is an argument, everything is a fight. Another sign that he may have found love interest somewhere else is if he's no longer interested in physical intimacy with you. And you know that that is not because of stress from work or he's not having any other physical issues. There's nothing wrong with him medically and all of that, but he doesn't want to initiate it. He doesn't even want to cuddle you, give you a hug, the little things that he would normally do that would lead to that. You find that don't no longer exist. Again, it may be because he's not finding you that attractive anymore in that way, because there is somewhere else that he's finding more alluring, more attractive. So again, I'm not saying take one thing out of this video and blow it out of proportion. Please do not do that. We are about preserving marriages here. But I know most of the time women question themselves on this thing. Am I going crazy, or am I just sensing something is off about my partner? Could they be cheating on me? So if again you find that he's disengaging with physical intimacy with you, he doesn't want it with you, he doesn't even want to approach it with you, and you know the other little things that lead to that major physical intimacy is also going away, then yeah, he may have found interest somewhere else. Next sign he may be cheating: unexplained financial transactions. And I can't even tell you the amount of women whose stories I've heard who've caught their men cheating because of this, right? Where you go through his like bank statements, or you go through the app and you're just seeing like random money being spent, and it's not something that's spent on the family, it's not something your partner would usually spend, but you just suddenly see random amount of money being spent in that restaurant, random amount of money checking into that hotel. You see random names when you Google them, you notice it's a random hotel, it's a random restaurant, it's, you know, all of these places. You're thinking, what's going on here? That may be a sign that the man has found interest somewhere else and he's entertaining somebody with the income of either his income or the family's income, right? So I know some men are going to watch this and be like, oh, you know, I need to watch my bank account now, let me put the security code. What you need to do is stop. What you need to do is stop, because what you're doing, for those who are doing it and they're watching this video, when you realize the impact of what just seems like a little bit of fun, when you realize the impact that it ends up having on your family, if you're somebody with a conscious heart, you would hate yourself. You would hate yourself. Fear Allah. Do not allow shaitan to use you. Do not allow the devil to use you to break your families. One of the devil's biggest goals would be to break a family, because once the devil has achieved breaking up a family, he knows that he has broken society. Now you have children with daddy issues, children with mommy issues, trauma everywhere, up, left, right and center. And that makes shaitan happy, because then he can deteriorate society the more. So we have to not take shaitan as our friends. When we do these things, we're just like, oh, just a little bit of fun. I'm not actually cheating on my wife. I just have this other lady that, you know, we talk every now and again. She's fun to talk to. She's whatever. And you're doing all of that with no fear of Allah, knowing that you are in no position to remarry again. You're not working on your relationship. The energy you should be putting in your relationship, you're putting it somewhere else. And you're thinking there's nothing wrong about that. There is so much wrong about that. And life, it is very true. I believe in the law of reaping what you sow. Whatever you do to somebody will always come back to you. It's just a matter of time. 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, somebody will do worse to you if you don't seek that person's forgiveness. So let's not take cheating as something that's just leisurely, the way the world is making it seem these days. The next one is a very common one that gets a lot of people kind of start thinking what's going on. And that is, all of a sudden your husband is working overtime at work. Like every day he has overtime, or every evening he has overtime, every weekend he has overtime. Like what's going on? It seems as though work is consuming his life. You know, the funny thing about it, he may be saying he's doing all of these so much work, but when it comes to the finances and you actually seeing the end result, nothing to show for it. So he's telling you, I've got overtime, I've got overtime. Every day he's got overtime. But if you let him pay all the bills, you turn around and say, okay, I'm not paying any more bills, he won't be able to pay the bills. So where is the money that you're making doing all of this so-called overtime? And that excuse is unfortunately one of the most classic excuses for people who are cheating, to use work as an excuse. Because what can you do as a spouse? If your spouse comes to you and says, they asked me to come and do overtime at work, what are you going to say? Don't go to work, like lose your job and let's not live? Of course you're going to let them go. But you know, as a woman, again, you got to trust your intuition. You know your spouse, you know your husband, you know your wife. If they suddenly have so much overtime that they need to be doing, and you're not seeing the fruits of this overtime, you want to be careful about that. It may be a sign that they found love interest somewhere else. And you know what? Another point to that is that sometimes they might even be bringing in the money that is showing that they're doing overtime. And so why would that be a point of suspicion? Because the person that they may be interested in might be working in their workplace. And so, sisters, let's not act as though we don't need to pray about our marriages. We don't need to pray for our husbands, because we do. Shaitan has multiple different ways to break marriages, to break families. If you're a married woman out there, or a woman about to get married, or a woman who hopes to be married someday, guaranteed you're going to need to pray for your marriage. You cannot do marriage well without prayers. That's acting as though Shaitan doesn't exist, which he does. He does. And we as human beings too, we can make major mistakes that can have lifelong impacts. So if you want to do marriage and do marriage well, you're going to need to pray. You pray for yourself and ask Allah to protect you, to protect your husband from people on the outside seeming better than the spouse you have. Because not only can this happen to your husband, it can also happen to you. You may all of a sudden think that a man somewhere else is far more better than your husband. Suddenly you hate your husband. Suddenly you're making excuses. You don't want to be at home. You're always at work. Where you're going is to spend time with this other man. Constant I'm working may be a sign that this person has found interest somewhere else, because it may just be an excuse for them to have the time to spend where they want to be, which is not with you. The next sign is a very subtle one, but nonetheless can be important. And that is, all of a sudden, you're so much about the way they look. And often this is to do with men, because you know what? When men settle down with a woman, take it from a married woman, they just don't put in that much effort no more. Like, the men don't put in that much effort in the beginning anyway, compared to women in terms of how they appear. And when they get married, it's like the wife has to be saying, that shirt doesn't match with those trousers. Aren't you gonna moisturize your face? Unfortunately, these are some of the things that you will have to tell your husbands, because men just don't really care that much about that type of stuff. So if you know your husband is that type of person, but now all of a sudden, for some strange reason, before he goes to work, he has to be perfumed up. He's now wearing some of his best clothes to go to work, and his appearance is so important to him now. It's like he won't leave the house to go to a specific place without him making himself look good. Like, for example, you know what I said earlier on about this sudden overtime, working overtime. So let's say, for example, he says, this weekend I'm working overtime. But the weekend he needs to dress nice. So you're like, where are you going? I thought you said you're going to work. Why are you looking like this? Oh, it's the weekend, I need to look good. Be careful. That sudden extra care in how they appear may just be because they are trying to make themselves more attractive towards whoever it is that they are attracted to outside. So again, I have to keep repeating. Don't just take one of these things and say, oh my God, my husband is doing this, he's cheating. No. My thing is, if you're seeing like 4 or 5 of these different things happening together, or like it's building, right? So maybe a few months ago you used to see 1 or 2 signs, and now as I'm talking about the things I'm talking about, you're like, yeah, and he does that too, and it's adding up. Okay, it may then be time for you to go and look for your receipts. It's not time to starting an argument, to start having an argument with him, start accusing him that he's cheating. It's time to get your receipts, because if you accuse him that he's cheating and he blows it out of proportion as a way of trying to pretend that he's not, when other people get involved between the two of you, what evidence have you got? You haven't. If you tell people these things, they will again just say you're just being suspicious, like you're overthinking it, you're paranoid or whatever, which again can be one of the reasons why people suspect their partners, because of paranoia, because of past relational traumas and their past experiences. So because that can also be a reason why one partner will suspect another, these cannot be like valid reasons for you to accuse your partner of cheating. Valid reasons have to be like you caught them together, you've seen them together, other people have told you with proper evidence, right? those are valid reasons, so that we avoid this thing of suspecting people and falling into the sin of suspecting people without concrete. Accusing your spouse of cheating is a major thing. We know the story of Aisha and how people were accusing her of the potentially cheating on the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala warns us about that and says we must never repeat such behaviors again. And so accusing a chaste person of cheating is a major sin. That is why we have to be careful about all of this. So I'm just sharing these things with you guys so that when you're seeing it, you're not second guessing yourself thinking, am I going crazy? You can actually know that, okay, I'm seeing it clearly, but I need evidence. I need the proper evidence now so that I can put this case forth. And also another thing that women, you can do when you begin to see these signs is pray for your husband. Pray for your husband. Pray for Allah to guide him. Pray for Allah to keep him away from strange women, to keep stranger women away from him. It is vital. It is very, very important. And then you need to be careful of your behavior during those times so that the bond between you and your husband remains and that you don't add to it becoming further apart. Because some of us, what we will then do is blow things out of proportion, and now you're further apart from your husband than you were before. And that is exactly what Shaitan wants, because then again, he pulls him away towards the other person on the outside and breaks your families. So my dear sisters and women out there, it is not easy, okay? Relationships aren't easy. They take work. Two people have to be committed. They have to decide that they want to commit to a relationship to make it work. And then there needs to be constant prayer and constant protection of what you have so that you can preserve the goodness that you have. There are women out there who are also looking for husbands. That doesn't mean all of them are out to get your man. Some of us need to relax with that. Not every single woman who's unmarried is out to get your husband. It's just not that serious. So my dear sisters, I hope this video has been somewhat enlightening for you. And maybe things you've already suspected and already knew. But like I always say, get concrete evidence before you confront the person so that you do not cross the Islamic boundary. Thank you so much, ladies, for watching today's video. If you don't know, I have a boundary setting masterclass where I teach women how to set effective boundaries with their friends, with their families, with their loved ones, with their partners. We talk about boundaries in marriage. We talk about boundaries around physical intimacy. We talk about boundaries around neighbors and in-laws. So if you want that masterclass, check out the description box down below for more information. And by the way, have you seen this video that I created just a few days ago? If you haven't, I'll see you over there for more content. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.